Oh, no, you were right.
It is 3:01, so
Oh, my goodness. It's gonna count against you. Could be on your permanent record. All right,
our friend Bruce isn't here.
yeah, a little surprising.
Yeah.
It's gonna be on his permanent record.
Right.
All right. All right, why don't we, I guess, call to order? And you want to do a roll call, Jen?
Sure.
Thanks.
Jim Mosier,
Here.
Jenny Gomez,
Here.
Bob Russ,
Here.
Brian Largate.
Here.
And Mike Galvin is absent. He's actually resigned from the committee.
Okay. All right. I guess I was in the temporary position last time, so I'll continue in that right now. Were there any changes to the agenda from any of the committee members? Do you have anything, Jenny?
Nope.
Jim, no. Brian, you're good. I'm fine. Oral communications from the public, no one's remote. Okay, great, makes it easy. Then the first new business is to elect a chair. I guess the four of us can do that. We've got a quorum.
Well, I move that Bob, you be chair and Brian, you be vice chair.
Second.
Okay. Any arguments?
No arguments.
Okay, darn. Okay, Jim, why don't you take roll?
Okay,
Thank you.
Brian Largate,
Yes.
Bob Russ,
Yes.
Jenny Gomez,
Yes.
Jim Mosier.
Yes.
All right, pass it.
All right,
So Bob
All
is the
right,
chair, Brian's the vice chair.
very
All right.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So I guess the first order of new business is to authorize signers, Jason and Sherry, on the LAIF funding mechanism with the state. Let me pull over to that. Okay. Did you want to present that, Sherry?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Just so everyone's aware, the local agency investment fund, we call it LAIF, is basically an account that's offered by the state so that we can put our excess funds into it and then earn some interest. And they have strict guidelines that we have to have a resolution that designates our signers on the account. So what this the draft resolution here would do would it would designate Jason and myself as signers. We would be the only people that could put money into the account or take it out of the account. And I just wanted to bring it to you guys before we bring it to the board. If you guys are good with it, then it would go to the board probably for the meeting of the 20th.
Gotcha. No, that's great. Any comments?
Are
Questions?
there any existing signers that need to be removed, or when you submit the new paperwork, it automatically just makes it you two, or?
Yeah, so it'll just make it us once we fill out their form. There are some people on there right now that do need to be removed, so this will just take care of everything in one step.
Sounds efficient.
Yep.
I have a question. In my organization, our finance director can't sign checks. Is that true for the water district too, or not?
So our financial system only has one signature on the check, and that's Jason's. However, that's something I do want to change eventually because we should have two signers on the check. But no, I've been the secondary signer everywhere else I work.
Gotcha. Okay, maybe it's a nonprofit thing.
Could be.
Thank you.
Well, it could be based on who's doing the reconciliation, I think, right?
Sure,
The
that
big
could be.
reconciliation.
Right, kind of as a double
Same
check
person
on
that's
that.
Doing that, then they can't sign.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Had you considered at all requiring two signatures, or is that too burdensome?
I don't know the software capabilities,
Yeah.
so I don't know if we can do that. But if we can, then I'd like to, just because it adds another layer of safety. But
Mhm.
Okay,
We'll see.
well, yeah, all right, well. Personally, I'm okay with it. It's great that both of you are here and able to start running with this. If there's no other discussion, then I move that we um, approve both Jason and Sherry for being authorized signers on the local agency investment fund.
I'll second that.
All right. Brian Largay,
Yes.
Bob Russ.
Yes.
Jenny Gomez.
Yes.
And Jim Mosier.
Yes.
All right, that is approved. Thank you.
Okay. And then that leads us into the second one, which is, maybe you can describe how this is different, I guess. Right?
Sure.
Okay,
So the California Water Code requires that the board designate a treasurer for the district. And typically this is done at the same time that you would do when you're reviewing your investment policy, just kind of do it all in one. But because I wasn't here when the investment policy was approved by the board, we needed to do a separate resolution designating me as treasurer. And so that's what this is. And again, if you guys approve it today, then it'll go on the meeting to the board meeting on the 20th. And then just a little bit of my background, just so you know that I am qualified to be a treasurer. I do have an MBA from California Coast University. I have a CCMT certification, which is California Certified Municipal Treasurer, and that is through the California Municipal Treasurers Association. And I was a finance director for 6 years for the city of Ridgecrest, 15 years experience in finance. So.
Hey, we're so glad to have you here.
Yeah.
I figured it would come up. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I am qualified for that.
Thank you.
and Ridgecrest is still solvent?
Yeah. Yep, we're good.
Okay. No, that's great. Appreciate the background. And so in your mind, is there a difference between treasurer and director of finance, or is it?
Not typically. So it's a little bit different than my city background, because for cities and counties, you don't have to designate someone as treasurer. It's just kind of assumed that the director of finance is the treasurer, unless they're a large city, and then you might have a separate position for treasurer. But this is mainly to satisfy the water code, which is something I haven't worked with yet. So it's not abnormal, but it's just not something I've had to do yet. Because typically, like you said, it's just understood.
Yeah, I just didn't appreciate if there was a difference or not. So I was just curious.
Well, this came up before you came on. Remember, there was that transfer from the community foundation, and our consultant, the person who was serving as our consultant, said she could not make the transfer because she wasn't the treasurer, and she couldn't be the treasurer because she wasn't on staff. So we need to,
Yeah. No, this
I'm
was
glad you're here, and this just shows how important it is to have a stable staff. And
Absolutely.
so
no, that's
I'll
very
move
good.
that Sherry become our treasurer for the water district. Or we're going to recommend this to the board. We recommend to the board that you get designated as treasurer.
I'll second.
Okay. Brian Largay,
Yes.
Bob Russ,
Yes.
Jenny Gomez.
Yes.
And Jim Mosier.
Yes.
All right, it passes. Thank you.
Super. Is there a repeat in here, or am I just not reading the words? Is there another one you're going to talk about? Or am I just,
All I have is the
Policy?
reserve policy.
oh, just the reserve? Okay, then I guess I'm getting confused here. It seemed like there was another finance manager thing. Okay. Pointing the district. Okay, these are just background. Got it. Okay, All right, so is this our sixth time talking about the capital reserves? Okay,
Close
Seems
to
like
it.
Yeah.
My
this is
third.
where the 2 hours
It's only
comes
your
in,
third.
right?
No,
You-
so the only thing I changed in the policy was I added the, it starts on page, let's see, 3 of the policy. So, we have the paragraph that says operating reserves, that didn't change at all, but we added conditions for use. So we've got that the board authorization is required and then eligible uses. Same for the capital reserve. We did, board authorization required and eligible uses. And then for the emergency reserve, because it's a little bit different, we just did the use of emergency reserves. So I guess that's what we need to go through and see if there's any changes that need to be made to those before we take it to the board. I'm hoping, again, to take this to the 20th. I'll be doing a lot of talking on the 20th, it sounds like. But anyways, I'm hoping that these sections would satisfy the concerns that were brought up at the last meeting.
Okay, it might be helpful if you don't mind, just going through each of the 3 categories of reserves and then what are the explicit conditions that we're basically recommending to the board that these have to take place first before we tap any, any of these 3.
Sure.
Okay, and that way, because this is really the heart of it, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, okay, that'd be great.
So yeah, the first one is our operating reserve. This is to address cash flow impacts of unanticipated non-recurring operating expenses or extraordinary revenue loss. So the eligible uses would be temporary shortfall in operating revenue, for a drought-related reduction in consumption, and then timing delays in revenue receipts or reimbursement. I was thinking, for an example of that would be property tax. Let's say something happened with the state and we didn't get our big property tax payment in December or April. That could be something that we would use operating reserves for. Unanticipated increases in operating expenses. We saw that a lot with COVID when there was the chip shortage and things just skyrocketed. So that could be something that we would use them as well. And then temporary funding to maintain service levels while longer term corrective actions are evaluated. Then we move on to the capital reserve. This is the one that I feel like we've talked about most since I've been here at least. So this is to fund new capital assets, major rehabilitation or the replacement of existing assets. Through the budget process, we would recommend that the use of capital reserves, or if something came up in the middle of the year, we would also recommend that. It does require board authorization for this draft policy. So some uses would be replacement or major rehabilitation, construction or acquisition of new capital assets. And then I think the big one that we were talking about at the board meeting was matching funds for grants or loans. And then the final one is the emergency reserve. These are for financial distress, natural disasters, or unforeseen emergencies. Again, it would require the vote of the board. And then this would just be for anything that is unanticipated to ensure the continuation of safe and reliable service or to protect public health, safety, or property, or a disaster, whether it's a natural disaster or infrastructure failure or anything that just needs emergency services.
Okay, thank you. Yes. please,
This
Ann.
was the one, didn't we want it to be from 5 to 3 and in here it says 4?
That was changed.
Oh, the capital reserve was changed to 3.
Oh, okay, not the
Not
emergency.
the,
Oh, okay, got it.
I believe that's correct.
So,
Jim? Yeah.
it just, I think it's good, but I note that if we have an emergency like a flood, it looks like we could be using 2 of the reserves if we needed to. In other words, the operating reserve and the emergency reserve. So that gives us a little more protection in case of something catastrophic like another fire. So I
The flood
appreciate
takes
your-
out major infrastructure.
But
Like, if the flood takes out our infrastructure, it could potentially also be
use the
the
capital.
capital.
Right.
Right.
Well, and then
Yeah.
I think there was also some discussion about an emergency line of credit or something like that that was gonna be looked into.
So yeah, I've talked to our municipal advisors and they said that according to our legal documents, we are not able to get a line of credit. And so they are actually gonna be presenting at the December 4th meeting for the potential bond that we might get as a district. And part of it is going to be addressing that line of credit and why we aren't able to participate in that.
Are these conditions that were placed years ago on like the bond, the 15 million bond that we got, the COP, or, you know?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe it was a condition of how those were written.
Right.
I can't answer for sure. I've been meaning to get back to you. I've been looking into it, just trying to see if I can dig into the history a little bit. But I'm hoping that by the 4th, we should have those answers for you, and then we can include that in the presentation.
Yeah, that would be great. Because that's not unusual for an underwriter to say, hey, we don't want you to borrow any other money.
Absolutely.
We're the guy,
Right.
no one else. And so they exclude you from doing it. Yeah, so I was hoping there might be some ability to do that, but we'll find out more, I guess, in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. I know one of the topics that did come up at the board when we were talking about this a couple weeks ago was should the emergency require an actual emergency designation? Right?
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that? And, you know, I guess we could talk amongst ourselves about that. Because right now, the way it's written is it basically the board determines if there's an emergency, which
Right.
allows us to be very nimble. I mean, if
Right.
we have a flood and it wipes out, you know, a pipeline or a tank or something, we can react the next day if we had to.
Exactly.
Right. Whereas waiting for the county or the state to say, yeah, this area is an a designated disaster zone. I don't know how long that takes, but I'm assuming that takes days or weeks. I don't know.
Potentially.
Yeah,
Potentially,
it could,
Yeah.
I've seen it where it's the next day and then I've seen it where it's a week later. So it really just depends on what it is.
How
and
big
What's
and-
going on and if they care, really. I mean, to be quite frank.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
But yeah, so this gives, the way that it's written, I feel like it gives the board the opportunity to say, we are declaring this an emergency. And then we don't have to rely on another entity to say it's an emergency.
Okay. So I guess just so that we're sort of caucusing internally here, Jim, how do you feel about that? line
I
of
think it's
reasoning?
absolutely, we want to have the flexibility. Because we want the water to flow as quickly as possible after an emergency. And if we have to wait around before we can access funds to do it, it could mean people are out of water longer than they need to be. So I heard the discussion at the board. I was on the call and I appreciate, I think, Sherry, you did a good job of responding to what the board wanted, which was just more detail about the intention. But the reality is that this is a board policy and the next board may decide, have a different view of how this is all going to work. And that's just how
It's how it
that's
works.
just how it works. But I think this is good guidance. So I'm in support of, I don't see any changes needed.
Okay. Jenny, how about you? Any? Okay. And Brian?
So I do want to try to just test drive some concepts related. I'm broadly supportive of all of the
Yep.
additions. It's really exciting. I think this really gets to my desire for a roadmap and a user's guide kind of thing. And I think it'll help other board members be supportive too, which is great. So on this, on the emergency reserves, I'm wondering if so it seems like there is an emergency, there's the need for funds, and then as written, the district would allocate funds for that emergency with the implication that it's an emergency.
Mhm.
It's almost by allocating funds from the emergency reserves, that's how we say it's an emergency. And I think that doesn't trouble me, but I'd imagine that some people might prefer a two-step process, or maybe a clear bullet that says the two-step process would be you declare there's an emergency, full stop, and then you allocate money to address that emergency in a separate action. I don't know if the district has other policies around declaring emergency. So if we don't have any other, then great, we're not stepping on the toes of other policies. But that might help it be clear and procedural and kind of more resilient to challenge.
It could still be done in the same meeting.
It could be done in the same
but
meeting,
Two clear resolutions.
two separate actions that might help. And then the alternative would be to have just make it clear that in so allocating money from the emergency reserves, you are declaring an emergency. And I think that framing, just making sure that there's a declaration of emergency involved helps kind of raise the public profile of moving assets out of the emergency reserve into the spendable monies. And, you know, that kind of signals very clearly to the whole community that we're taking this very seriously
Right,
and tapping those resources.
sure.
And I think that transparency might be helpful.
Mhm.
Carrying on Brian's thought procedurally, so let's say there's two steps, the board declares an emergency and then resolves that we're gonna take $500,000 out of the emergency fund. How would that work? Would a special account be created then? That would be the emergency reaction account? I mean, and then how are then subsequent expenses and charges? How do you see that kind of playing out?
It would be, what I've done before in emergencies is assign a code.
I'm
So
sorry, a sign of,
assign a code in
A
the
code.
financial system. And so basically that code, we would do, a work order number, or something like that in our system. And so it would just be any expense, any time would be charged to that code. And, you know, when we're dealing with FEMA and Cal OES, we also have to take into account volunteers and donations and all of this other thing. So anything that we get would just have that code.
I see.
That's one of the most important things is, and that in pictures really, but
Okay,
so yeah, we would have a all hands meeting basically saying this is the code, put it on everything, send out an email, this is the code, put it on everything. That's gonna be a big important.
I see. So staff time, equipment rentals, subcontractors, they
Yeah.
all would use that code.
Luckily, staff is already familiar with this process. because
Exactly.
we've done it.
How many
We've-
times?
We've had a lot of experience.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We've got it
Yeah,
down.
this is easy to do, don't worry, okay. Okay,
So Brian, do you think a two-step process would be advisable for all three of the funds?
I'm not sure. I hadn't thought through that so much. Not necessarily. No, I think the emergency is the one I was thinking of.
It
Because
seems like the rationale for it would apply to at least the operating one, that the board would have to say, we have an unanticipated set of expenditures, therefore we're gonna go into the operating reserve.
right, and that was yes, and so maybe a two-step process is warranted for these other things too. I'm certainly open to that possibility. I was a little,
I find the capital thing, capital reserve so different than the other two, because it's like, well, we're gonna spend it and then we're gonna take 3 years, put it back. I don't know if it's needed for the capital, but that's because I don't really understand it, so.
well, maybe we can talk a little bit more about that. But just before leaving the emergency reserve, what you described, that the process of creating a code, would that be a restricted account? Would there be some, I could imagine stakeholders wanting some assurance that the money that comes from the emergency reserves goes to a specific emergency solving account or code
Sure.
and doesn't leak out into other places.
Absolutely.
I would encourage, if you know how the script will be played out in the event of an emergency, you might consider scripting it and adding, the implementation steps or something like that as part of the policy, because that will help with this whole transparency thing and confidence. I think the concern would be that these reserves get tapped for something other than their intended purpose, or they get tapped for their intended purpose and then the money leaks out into other purposes, and kind of shoring up the system with reassuring language about the process that would be used.
I'm okay with that. The only thing that concerns me with that is what happens if, when we're responding to one emergency, another emergency happens. And we need to then take from the first emergency, so I don't really wanna just have us locked in.
Too restricted.
You can only use this amount for this emergency, just in case something else happens. But what we can do is add some language, like it can't be used for anything else unless the board says otherwise. So that if there is an emergency or something happens, we can go to the board and they can say, yes, please use the, and obviously that's a stretch, I know, but
No, I think
I just don't-
if that provision were explicit in this, I think that would give great confidence.
Sure, okay.
Perhaps
Yeah, I
a
see that.
way of not tying our hands too much.
Right,
To that
right.
point would be maybe just some verbiage that says it is expected that the process would work this way. So that we're not saying it is required the process should work this way. And that way
Sure.
it kind of gives an outline to people, we're using this code and everybody, enters that code for any work that's done.
What to
Just-
expect.
Yeah. And so I don't know if that,
Yeah,
if that
I
works
feel
for
good
you.
about that.
okay, something like that.
So, and before I put all of that in the reserve policy, I want to make sure, do you know if we have an emergency policy of
I don't
any
believe so,
sort?
but I was just gonna ask if we shouldn't create that, because I feel like that's where the number is gonna come from, right?
Exactly. So I feel like we're almost dealing with two separate things here, and maybe what we need is
Both.
an emergency policy.
Yeah.
To then detail exactly how we respond to emergencies.
Mhm.
And what constitutes an
And what
emergency.
constitutes an emergency and the process for declaring, because I'm
Right.
thinking if you declare an emergency, at the board level. That's where you would get your declaration number or whatever, your
Exactly.
account number, the GL code, whatever you wanna call it.
Right.
Would be
Exactly,
associated
yeah.
with that.
Right.
That could make a lot of sense. The hazard mitigation plan was just completed a month ago or something. And it lists every emergency under the sun,
Yeah,
and could be, it could tear off of that, have an
Absolutely,
emergency
yeah.
policy.
Okay.
So I think this is great. So I feel good about the emergency policy comments that I've shared. For the other two, I'm a little, I've wondered a bit about the relationship between the reserve policy or the reserves and the budget process.
Mhm.
And my kind of basic way of thinking about it is that we've got our budget. It anticipates revenue and expenditures. And what the reserve policy does is if there is a problem, if we don't get the revenue we need, and we need to cover that, we could tap the reserve to bring us back into, I don't know if the right word is balance with the budget, but we could meet our expected expenditures.
Right.
And on the other side, if our expenses are higher than anticipated because of some, the price of steel goes through the roof, and we were budgeting $1 million for the tank, and now it's 2 million, we could tap the reserves to make up that difference.
Right.
And so if that's the primary and maybe that applies to the operating reserve and the capital reserve. That I think having some language in the policy about the relationship between the reserves and the budget would help be because I think as written, you could have a scenario where it's not in the budget, but we decided for whatever reason, we really want to do it. And we can now tap the capital reserve to do this project that wasn't in the budget. And is that something that we would contemplate? I don't know that I have a pre-formulated opinion about it, but it seems like if we're principally thinking that this would be a tool to make sure that we can execute everything in the budget, then it's simpler than if we are thinking it can handle stuff outside of the budget.
Right. Well, and like you were saying with the capital, you can budget to spend capital reserves.
And I don't understand that.
So the way that that works is, like you said, we want to have a balanced budget. So let's just pick a round number. Let's say, we're expecting 50 million in revenue. So we want 50 million in expenses. But let's say we have a project that we know we want to do and it's 5 million. We can then say, we're budgeting to spend 5 million out of our capital reserves this year because we're going to do this specific project. And then we would replenish those capital reserves over the next 2 to 3 years by having our 50 million in revenue and then only spending 49 or 48.
Gotcha.
And that's how we would replenish the capital.
Okay.
Based on the budgeting side of things.
Excellent. Okay. So if I'm understanding, the capital reserve could be used as this kind of buffer for it within the budget process.
Yes, for the budget side of things. However, if to go on the other end, it might not be budgeted. And it could be, hey, we have an opportunity to get in a really great grant, but we need to offer up 3 million in matching funds. We can then use our capital reserves as long as they haven't been budgeted and they're replenished and everything and we have them available, then yeah, we can do that and we can match that grant.
Terrific.
So those are the two sides of the coin when it comes to the capital reserve.
Great. So I think that is really enlightening for me. And I think that the policy could potentially be enhanced by having a subsection along the lines of eligible uses that's like relationship to the budget or budget implications or whatever, and kind of bullets out, because I think the budget implications are different for those three things. Where emergency reserves, it wouldn't be budgeted. The capital reserves, it has this this buffering role. And then I'm not sure about the operating reserves. Maybe that's a revenue shortfall. I don't know if there would be other budget scenarios where, but I think that could also just help educate everyone else.
Sure.
Like you've educated me.
Yeah, I can definitely redo this. And I think the input I've gotten so far has been really great. So I think the back and forth, while it might be tedious at times, I think it's going to result in a really great policy for the district.
Can I throw one last suggestion in there?
Absolutely.
That because the replenishment calendar is different for those three different things, you might consider having the replenishment thing also be a subheading that's different for each of the three reserves. And
what is the replenishment for the emergency and operational? Is it already in the policy?
It is.
The capital was over 3 years, is that right?
Yeah, it is.
I think it's 3 years. Except the operating reserve, which is 2 years.
So operating is 2 years, target of restoring reserves within 2 years. A maximum of 3 years. But, yeah, we can make that a little bit more clear in each of the sections. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Cool.
Just to add to that idea and continue the discussion here.
We have another hour and a half to go.
Yes, that was the threat, wasn't it? You missed that, but we're pulling a prank on Jim and Jenny. And Sherry and I said, oh, the capital reserve is a 2-hour minimum.
Oh,
discussion.
no.
And their mouths just
Yes,
dropped.
I'm sure.
We ate it. Hook,
They
line,
ate
and
it, yeah,
sinker.
Hook, line and sinker.
We're
They
getting
took it. But I guess just to kind of maybe another area that you can think about, Sherry, and maybe add is that as part of the process of the board declaring I guess an emergency or disaster or whatever, tapping either of any of the three. And then resolving to take some amount and put it into some kind of a GL account that's now being tracked. But is also maybe, how is it going to be replenished? So those three pieces, in other words, the board also needs to think about, okay, so if it's a 3-year replenishment for the emergency fund, how is that going to, do we have to give something up over the next 3 years
Hmm.
in order to actually put those funds back in and make sure it gets back up?
Mhm.
You know, if we've only taken $500,000 out, well, okay, that's obviously easier. But if we've taken all 3 million or 4 million out of the emergency fund, then, so maybe a plan for replenishment is also part of the expectation.
Sure.
Okay, which I think,
Great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we can just add a section under each reserve category for replenishment, and then we'll define the timeline for each of them, and then how the replenishment should work. I'll also add
sort
some
of
language.
budgeting for the replenishment, and it may not work that way.
Exactly, so I'll add some language that kind of
Right.
gives us the flexibility, so we're not, again, our hands aren't tied, we have to do this.
Right.
But yeah, no, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, great.
Excellent.
And I was just thinking about examples of like how the capital reserve might be tapped. So engineering is going to give us a prioritization of all of their construction projects, right? And maybe something happens or someone comes across, oh boy, we didn't realize it, but this particular project here, we've really got to do this because we just noticed some problem. And if we don't put that to the top of the list, then, and we don't want to, we've already begun the other projects. We don't want to stop them, right? And so that's a great case for tapping the at least the capital reserve perhaps,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And again, then come up with a plan for replenishment. Okay.
I really like that. And I could see in implementation, someone referencing the policy and being like, oh, okay, we've got emergency reserve. Oh, here are the uses. Oh, great. Oh, here's the replenishment procedure. And let's just go down the list and whether it's staff preparing a recommendation or board reviewing that recommendation, it's all kind of laid out the things you should look for.
Yeah. Well, it's good discussion.
Is there any, do we have the reserves now, or is there a budget implication for adopting this policy in terms of having these funds in separate accounts?
We do have the reserves. They are not in separate accounts until we get all of this. And then even after that, I would have to check with our auditors, because typically you don't want to have it in a separate account. You just want to have them as restricted funds.
Right.
Yeah.
But we do have the money. Okay.
In fact, the good news about this is that if this policy is adopted, I believe it frees up about 2.5 million and maybe that's in a year or so, but between 1.5 and 2.5 million that
Correct.
can now be applied to the construction priorities, which is great.
Mhm.
And
Because the current reserves are higher than these
Good.
yeah, exactly.
and fully
And
stocked or whatever. It's
yeah,
called.
and in fact, negative. So, yeah, so that's right. Okay, I had just a couple minor additions,
Mhm.
Sherry, if you don't mind, under the capital reserve portion, if you could add, for some reason I wanted to add grants and reimbursements. Let's see, shoot, where does that go? And then under the emergency use, I also wanted to just add loans as maybe a placeholder as a source of funds. Because, and that's right after your you call out insurance, grants, reimbursements. And so maybe just add loans there, just as we may be precluded, maybe it's something that can be negotiated with the bondholders, I don't know.
Okay,
And then under the procedure, I wanted to say something like oh, we did talk about the replenishment. Yeah, okay. So we've got that included already. Okay. Brian, did we cover all your great
Covered all my
questions?
stuff.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
okay, super. And Jenny, anything to add or more questions? No, okay, and Jim,
Same, I'm fine.
you're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need a motion for this? I don't think we do.
now my plan is to bring it back to the next meeting, just because we're making so many changes. I don't feel comfortable just taking it directly to the board.
Okay,
I'd like to bring it back to the committee one more time before I take it to the board.
okay.
Sounds great.
So that means we will see it in a month then, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then the
If
board,
we have our December meeting.
uh,
And that was something I was gonna bring up.
well, maybe we can, if we know we're gonna have a quorum, then maybe we can have it just to try to
Absolutely.
keep things moving. What day of do you know what day is that? Do you have that, Jenny? For,
I have it on my calendar.
Like the 8th or something. Let's see.
Oh, boy.
No,
It's December,
10th?
Oh,
December 10th.
okay. Oh, and I'm the one that's out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then Mike is also out, so if Jim and Jenny and Brian can all make it, then we can have a meeting, but
Then you can have a
if
meeting.
not, we won't.
Right, okay, so I don't know if the three of you think you'll be here. I certainly hate to not make progress on this. But I am out of state, so I'm gone.
I should be here.
I'm available.
Okay.
I mean, we'll miss you though.
Oh,
We will,
very kind.
because you get into the details more than I do.
Well,
But I think.
if
no,
Brian's
it'll be
here,
good.
then he's
I'll
good
be
for
here.
it too. Okay, all right.
All right,
And
Sorry, it
let's-
took me a little while there.
That's great. Okay. All right, so
Plan on having another meeting,
super.
sounds good,
All right, so
all right,
and then if possible, maybe I am leaving on the 5th of December for those 8 or 9 days. If it's possible to shoot a revised policy I could look at,
Sure.
that'd be
Oh,
great.
that'd be
And maybe
great.
you just send it to the budget committee to look at. Okay, and then I can throw in a few comments and then disappear.
Sounds great.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Good.
great. I think that's it, right?
That is it.
nothing for unfinished business. And it looks like, oh, number 7, committee comments. That was your guys' opportunity to comment on anything that hasn't already been commented on, or for future agenda items that you might have in mind.
We didn't need to approve the prior meeting minutes or anything.
At the committee
Um,
level, they don't get a committee.
I asked Bob to put on the agenda the rate assistance program update, and I know I got the update. I think you just sent it to him. I'd just like to have that as informational, at least quarterly.
Okay, just at the budget finance,
Yeah, just for budget, just information.
So how many
Part-
enrollees and how many,
Yeah, because our,
Open.
the Friends of SLB Water are publicizing that, and I just want to keep track of how that's going.
okay.
If we're fully enrolled, then
Mhm.
that would change the message we want to give people.
I'll let Leah know.
Okay,
Awesome.
that's right. think there were 8 open.
11.
11.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And then I was looking at last year's fiscal financial reports. Are those are done by a CPA or who
Yes.
does those? Okay,
Those are done by our auditor.
by the auditor.
Yeah, so at the, once we complete year end, then our auditor takes over and they put together the, what we call it, the act for the annual comprehensive financial report. And so they're actually finalizing. I just got an email during the meeting that they're trying to finalize it pretty soon.
Right, because that had ended June 30, right?
Right, and so
Right.
typically,
Okay.
typically everybody tries to have it done by the end of calendar year. Occasionally, it'll go past that if there is an emergency or a staff turnover, but the goal is to always have it done by December 31st.
Okay. And I'm curious, so how much does that cost us to have that audit done?
Oh, I would have to look.
Okay, you don't know approximately.
I mean, I can tell you from the city, it was 45,000. But I
think the
don't
last
know.
one we paid for was 30 or 35,000, if I remember.
That
correctly.
sounds right,
Okay.
because it's not just putting together that book, it's also, doing a complete audit and making sure everything's in compliance.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of information in that financial report. So I was just curious where we were and then are there interim reports that can be easily done or is that like really hard, like quarterly if?
So I do those to the board.
Right,
If you want, I can start bringing those same reports to the committee. I just didn't know if that would be too much of the same information.
right. And these would be quarterly reports with the same level of detail or more high level or?
Whatever you want,
Okay.
yeah, cause I know the board receives, monthly reports. And then the quarterly ones I haven't done yet, but they have a lot more information in them. So I would have to, look and see, but that's something that I could bring each month before the board meeting, if that's what you're wanting.
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking for, without adding a lot of burden to you. If at least quarterly or would be available, easily available to be sent maybe to the Budget and Finance Committee, that'd be great. And then if we have questions that come out of it, that would be great. And maybe it's easier to send us the monthly, I don't know. I mean, but you're saying the quarterly does have a lot more detail behind it too.
It does. What I did for my finance committee at the city was I had a report that I would present, and it was budget and actuals. And then just like some bullet points of, this is why we haven't received this revenue and this is why this expense looks kind of high, that sort of thing. Is that something you're wanting?
Yeah, I was actually interested in variances because we have now a 2-year budget.
Mhm.
And we're negotiating with the labor unions about pay raises and stuff. And so when that's all finalized, then we need to put that back in and see, okay, where are we? And so it would be great if the Budget and Finance Committee can get a little insight on that, start thinking about it, and then maybe pass on some things to the board.
Absolutely. I can start doing that.
Okay.
That shouldn't be hard at all.
Okay, great.
No more extra work for me. Don't worry.
Oh, all right, good.
Right.
That's one thing I definitely don't want to burden you with. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. All right, any other?
Yeah, I'd just like to mention on the rate assistance program, I realized there's a contradiction on the web page. Has that been addressed? I didn't go back.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
And,
'Cause I noticed
and, Jason told me that renters actually could be eligible.
Mhm.
Has that been spelled out anywhere? Cause it was confusing to me.
Yeah,
but
I
it's-
believe it was filled out in the revised.
Okay,
policy.
I haven't looked at it. I'll go look at it. Thank you.
No
Okay.
problem.
I didn't realize that. So renters you don't have to be the owner. You could be a renter if if you're responsible for the water bill coming to the renter, you can actually then take
Right.
advantage of
But the bill has to go to the landlord.
it. Oh, it
But the
has-
landlord, according to Jason, it could be forwarded to the renter. But
Ah,
in order to be able to, if it's not paid, in order to put a lien on the house, it's actually owed by the owner.
By the owner.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's the complication.
got it. Okay.
So if you're a renter, you have to be a renter that has a separate meter,
Meter,
which is probably very few renters.
right, okay. All right,
Alright.
good.
All right.
Any other questions or, okay, thank you.
Alright.
Yep, thank you. You guys are doing great.
Thank you very much, three of you.
Yeah.
All right, we're out of here.
You're adjourned.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Such a report.